a scathing critique of McLaren's internal regulations, calling them useless and nonsensical. Meanwhile, Helmut Marko has fiercely criticized the British media for their perceived bias against Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez has erupted in anger, launching a blistering attack on Red Bull following the team's recent decision to terminate his contract. Stay tuned, here is the full report. In a typically candid fashion, reigning Formula One world champion Max Verstappen has taken a swipe at McLaren's internal team rules, deriding their so-called papaya rules as both useless and nonsense. The Dutchman's remarks came in response to the team's unique phrasing of their driver management approach during the Italian Grand Prix, an idea that clearly failed to resonate with the Red Bull ace. McLaren, riding on a resurgence in form, introduced the term papaya rules at Monza, a nod to their iconic papaya orange livery. The concept emerged after Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri remarkably locked out the front row in qualifying, a clear indication of the team's growing competitiveness. During the race, tension simmered when rookie sensation Piastri overtook Norris for the lead, igniting the kind of intra-team rivalry that can often boil over. To keep matters under control, McLaren team principal Andrea Stella introduced the papaya rules philosophy. Stella explained that the term primarily served as a reminder for both drivers to race cleanly and avoid unnecessary risks when competing against each other. Speaking to media outlets, Stella elaborated on the reasoning behind McLaren's in-house terminology during the Monza weekend. Our recommendation is always racing with the papaya rules. When the car is papaya, when you're fighting your teammate, you need to take even more care than you would with any other competitor. We need to ensure, particularly with such a competitive car, that we see the checkered flag. Stella further emphasized the importance of team harmony over personal rivalries. We aim to drive the race in synergy between our two drivers rather than fostering the mindset that your main competitor is your teammate. That approach isn't productive, and we need to stay away from it. The sentiment behind Stella's words appeared clear. McLaren wanted their drivers to prioritize the team's interests, particularly as they sought to consolidate their competitiveness against the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull. However, for Verstappen, the adoption of a catchy slogan for what is essentially standard team orders did little to impress. The Dutchman, known for his no-nonsense attitude both on and off the track, found McLaren's papaya rules to be a needless complication. Speaking to Dutch broadcaster Viaplay, Verstappen made his disdain abundantly clear. "This is another nonsense quote. Papaya rules, that's totally useless to me." Never one to mince words, Verstappen went further. "If I heard that from my engineer, I'd tell him to just shut up immediately. What kind of nonsense is this? You're allowed to race. That's fine. They could have solved this in a way easier and better way as a team." Verstappen's criticism highlights a broader debate within Formula One. How much intervention from the pit wall is too much? The notion of team orders has long been a contentious issue, particularly when both drivers are fighting for the same piece of tarmac. Yet, McLaren's decision to coin a specific term for their internal policy added an unconventional layer to the conversation, one that evidently failed to impress the dominant force of modern F1. Verstappen's scathing remarks come as McLaren continues to assert itself as a genuine contender near the sharp end of the grid. Norris and Piastri's performance in Monza, where they not only locked out the front row but also pushed Verstappen during the race, sends a strong signal to the rest of the paddock. Yet, managing to competitive drivers is a delicate balance. History has shown that when teammates clash, as seen with Hamilton and Rosberg at Mercedes, or even Vettel and Webber at Red Bull, it can lead to fireworks both on track and behind the scenes. For McLaren, the papaya rules represent a proactive attempt to avoid such a scenario. However, for Verstappen, whose Red Bull team has dominated the season with a far clearer team hierarchy, such measures are unnecessary. His partnership with Sergio Perez has been mostly devoid of similar tensions, thanks in part to Verstappen's consistent supremacy. Meanwhile, Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko has turned his attention to what he perceives as unfair treatment of Verstappen by the British media. In his final Speed Week column of the year, Marko criticized English outlets for their excessive support of British drivers, particularly Lando Norris, while underplaying Verstappen's dominant performances. At the start of the season, Verstappen appeared destined to secure yet another dominant title. But McLaren's upgrade package introduced in Miami briefly reignited hopes for a competitive championship. Norris, armed with a significantly improved car, was heralded as a challenger capable of taking the fight to the Dutchman. However, as the season progressed, Norris ultimately fell short of delivering a consistent challenge. Verstappen wrapped up the championship with 2 races to spare, showcasing his superiority once more. Marco suggested that Verstappen's achievements were undermined by media bias. Max has matured further this year, Marco wrote in his Speed Week column, translated from German. He was the best mentally as a driver and in one-on-one combat, and he has learned to only achieve what is necessary. He also pointed to Verstappen's strategic intelligence. If anyone had said at the beginning of the year that he would waive Lewis Hamilton and the 2 Ferraris past because he was thinking about the World Championship, that would have been declared nonsense. But he did it because he knows what he has to concentrate on. Marco's remarks follow Verstappen's earlier frustrations about being judged unfairly for having the wrong passport, alluding to his Dutch nationality in contrast to the widespread support for British drivers. The Red Bull camp stance highlights the ongoing tension between Verstappen's dominance and the British media's appetite for a homegrown hero. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez has hit back at Red Bull Racing following widespread reports that the team is set to confirm his departure after a torrid 2024 season. The Mexican driver, who has struggled to match the blistering form of his teammate Max Verstappen, expressed his frustration over his impending exit, branding the situation as deeply disappointing. Despite signing a lucrative 2-year contract extension as recently as June, Perez's position at Red Bull has become increasingly untenable. His performance has dipped dramatically, with the 34-year-old failing to secure a podium finish since the Chinese Grand Prix in April. By the end of the season, Perez languished in 8th place in the Drivers' Championship, a staggering 285 points behind Verstappen, who dominated the field to claim his 4th consecutive title. Speaking after the season finale in Abu Dhabi, Perez admitted that discussions with Red Bull about his future are ongoing. We're talking to try and see what's best moving forward. If we can reach an agreement, that's great. If not, I have a contract for next year, and I intend to honor it. Perez's remarks, however, come against a backdrop of intense speculation. Reports suggest Red Bull is negotiating terms for a potential exit package, despite Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko rubbishing claims of a multi-million-dollar separation fee. In a column for Speed Week, Marko wrote, "There's a lot of speculation, including rumors about possible transfer fees, which are complete nonsense." Marko also hinted that an announcement regarding Red Bull's 2025 driver lineup is imminent, stating, "We will be announcing news on the driver pairing for next year in the next few days." If Perez's departure is confirmed, rising star Liam Lawson is widely expected to step into the coveted seat alongside Verstappen. The New Zealander, who has impressed during his limited appearances for Red Bull's junior team Racing Bulls, expressed confidence in his readiness to partner the reigning world champion. In an exclusive interview with media, Lawson dismissed comparisons with Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, both of whom struggled to adapt when promoted to Red Bull's senior team. "I don't know what Gasly and Albon felt when they were there," Lawson said. "But for me, it's about learning from the best. Max is the fastest guy on the grid right now, and being alongside him would be an incredible opportunity." Lawson also acknowledged the challenges of stepping into Verstappen's domain, adding, "You have to be realistic. Max has been a massive part of developing that car, and he understands it better than anyone. For me, the opportunity lies in learning from his data and driving techniques."